So I just finished pruning, summer pruning, the first apple tree. You can see here. Another thing that I've tried to maintain is the natural shape of the tree. So the aesthetics side of the tree when you're pruning is also something to consider. This is quite an old knobbly tree. So it's got that kind of distinctive character of an older tree. And I tried my best to maintain that. You can see the amount of material that we've removed. So it's quite a significant process. But just very quickly, you can see the difference between this unpruned tree, how dense it is, and this pruned tree, how much more open it is. You can see pretty much through the tree. So there's a lot more light and air accessing the ripening apples. You can see I've also thinned out some of them now, beginning the process to thin them out. They're in groups of 2 now, as opposed to groups of 3 or 4. So the apples now will swell and become much more juicy and significant. And I followed basic pruning principles as always, cutting back to a bud. You can see here where the leaf node joins the branch, that's where the side shoots will form and the spurs will form to crop for next year. But you get a rough idea about, based on what I was explaining in the previous video to what we've got now as a finished product. So much more light and air as opposed to this tree, which we'll start working on in subsequent visits to this garden. There's a lot of trees to get through, but it's time consuming, but really worth it. As I said, these trees are really pruned quite heavily in the winter, hence they are throwing up so many water shoots. But now we've pruned them in the summer, we've pruned these water shoots out, and we've basically got this tree back into a nice positive and productive cycle, and it will make the maintenance much less intrusive in subsequent years. This tree now will be much easier to prune in the winter and in future summers. So invest a lot of time and effort on older trees at the beginning. It really begins to pay back in future years. It's not as a heavy crop on this tree as I explained in the previous video. This tree cropped quite heavily last year, so there's less apples on it this year, but I'm still quite happy with the amount of apples that we've got. And they're really gonna now, in future years, hopefully fruit really, really productively. So there you go, a little case study of pruning apple trees in both the winter and the summer, and this is the result. And as I said, in the future years now, this tree will just need a very gentle prune. So I've invested all that time and effort. I'm going to get that back in the future, so really worth doing.